Hey everybody, welcome to the Waldock Way. My name is Jessica, and today's video is a continuation of our Gameschooling series. Today's subject is language arts. Let me go ahead and remind you that I am co-hosting this with Ingrid from Mommy and Mia Homeschool Chronicles, and the playlist will be linked in the description box down below. Make sure you check it out. You're not going to want to miss it. Much like the math Gameschooling that we did last week, which I will link up here if you haven't seen that, I'm going to show you everything that would fit in a stocking stuffer first. So everything you see until I say otherwise will fit in a traditional size stocking, just so you have a heads up. The first thing I want to show you is Bananagrams, and my first Bananagrams. Yes, I have them both. No, you don't need them both. I had the traditional Bananagrams first. They are the normal little tiles. They look very similar to Scrabble tiles. They're all in capital letters. They're very versatile. There's a ton of things you can do with these. Even if your child's not ready to play Bananagrams the traditional way, you can use them for spelling practice, so I highly suggest these. Now, I bought my first Bananagrams when they came out for a few different reasons. One reason is because they were lowercase and in these adorable colors. And the second reason is because certain things were joined together. So your word families and like QU and like your double E's, they're already joined together to make these phonetically easier for kids that are just learning. So they don't have to try to remember the rule of like Q and U always have to go together. They're already joined together. So that was a very, I guess, easier way to introduce my daughter to Bananagrams and to help phonetics lessons with her. So that is why I bought that. But like I said, you don't really need both of them. I just had one and then bought the other. Next, I'm going to show you a couple of the different things that we use for stories and story writing and story starting. We use these for a lot of our story starters. Sometimes we do them verbally. Sometimes I jot them down. The first one is the Telltale. I happen to have the Disney ones because we love Disney, but there are other versions. And all this is these adorable cards that have different pictures on them. And there's a few different ways to play. Most of these we play in multiple ways. Sometimes we'll just draw one card and tell a story about it. Sometimes we'll draw 3 to 5 cards and use those to tell a story. Sometimes we'll draw a card each, and each person tells that portion of the story, adding on to the previous person. So we play in multiple different ways when we use these, but we really love them, especially because they're Disney and we love Disney. Actually, those were both in my daughter's stocking last year. Another story card that we really love is the Ebu story cards, the Create a Story. These are excellent quality, like I said before, and they slide out of this super nice box. There are multiple ways to play them, and they have beautiful illustrations. So again, we would do these in the very similar sense. We would maybe pick one, pick a few, pick one each and add on to the story. It just kind of depends on what mood we're in. I actually have 3, I only have 2 right here, but I have the village animals and the fairy tale mix-up, and we also have one that's a volcano mix-up, I think, somewhere. Another one of our absolute favorite things for storytelling is the Rory story cubes, and I think I have them all. I have the original, the Fantasia, the Action, and the Voyage. And what these are these decent sized cubes or dice that have different little drawings on them. And you can see right here there's 3 different ways to play. What I love about the Rory Story Cube is they're also color coded. So the Fantasia have pink images, the Actions have the green images, and Voyage have blue. So if we decided to maybe pick one from each, which we have done before, they're easy to put back in their original boxes. But these are some of our favorite for storytelling, for writing a story, for story starters. It's so much more fun to roll a dice to get started, especially if you're drawing a blank. I'm going to go ahead and show you what I keep in these. And if you haven't seen the math one yet, which I highly suggest, this is one of my gaming pro tips, especially if you're low on storage. These are photo cases from Michael's. I happen to buy the big briefcases that have 16 of these inside them, but this will hold either 2 standard decks of cards, larger cards, or or a large deck of cards like Uno that has double the amount. This game is called Wacky, Funny, Crazy, Corny, Goofy, Silly Sentences. And so it is very simple, draw and discard, and you're trying to collect an adjective, a noun, a verb, and a conjunction in order to make a sentence. So it's a fun way to make sentences, practice reading, and also learn some of those parts of speech. We also really love Scrabble Slam. We don't quite play it the way that it's supposed to be played, because you're supposed to actually put down 4 piles and make 4 piles, 4-letter words. We play with 3-letter words because my daughter is a little bit younger and it's easier for her, and it's a fast-paced game. So it's easier for her to do 3-letter words right now. But for instance, if you had like the P, I'm going to have a lot of P's, but let's say you have P-O-T laying down and somebody hit a D in their hand, you could lay the D on top of the P and say dot, and then so forth. The person can change the O to an I and say dit, or the T to something else, and you can make different 3-letter words. We right now don't play that they have to be real words. If she can phonetically sound it out and say the word, she gets credit for it, but it is supposed to actually be a real word. This is probably one of my favorite finds in the game because it is so fun and works on so many different things. It's Think Fun's Last Letter. They're gorgeous cards. You could just use these cards for story starters, or they're gorgeous. But the way it would work is everybody would have some cards in their hand, and let's say somebody put this card down and discarded it, and they said this is a church. The last letter in the word church is an H. So if this was the card in my hand, you would have to say a word that started with the letter that this ended with. So I could look at this and say helpful and lay it down because it looks like they're helping, and that started with the H that the previous card ended in. So this is a great way to practice phonics without really realizing it, and observe all this. I mean, look, these are gorgeous. It's just fun, and it's kind of fast-paced too, which makes it a lot of fun too. Another one that we really love is called Super Sleuth, because my daughter loves anything that's like crime fighting. And so inside here you have multiple meaning, homophones, antonyms, and synonyms. So you would pull one out and you would read it like this synonym says, fill in the blank with a synonym for fix to find out how Detective Detergent enters a suspect's home. So you read this and it gives you the options, and then you have a little like magnifying decoder that you put on the fingerprint that tells you the answer. And if you get it right, you earn one of these, and whoever has the most wins. So it's a fun way to practice some of those harder concepts for kids in a, like detective kind of way. These learning resources games have been amazing. We have almost all of them. This one is called Pop for Rhyming. So you spin this and you collect however many little things it says, and you pull something out, and you try to rhyme. So this is whale, so you could say kale. And if you can rhyme it, then if you can come up with a rhyming word, you get to keep it. If you can't, you put it back. And if you pick the pop, you have to put your cards back that you've already earned. Same concept for the pop for sight words, and I have the pop for sight words 1 and 2. These are little popcorn sight words. You take turns pulling them out. If you can read the word, you get to keep it. If you can't, you put it back. If you get a pop, you have to put all of your popcorn back. So these have been amazing. This is probably what taught her all her sight words, because we didn't really ever do a sight word curriculum. We just played these a lot. Another similar one is the Stacker Crackers. So these are adorable little crackers and cheese. And for instance, this word is cub, and so you have to swap the sounds. So you could take the C, replace it with a P, and say pub. And they have to be able to tell you that. They have to say, okay, I'm going to swap this letter for this letter, and this is the word it would make. So if they can swap those sounds, they get to keep those little crackers and cheese. Quibbler Junior is another game that we really like that's very similar to Scrabble Slam. You have letters in your hand that you're trying to form a word. Each letter has a different point value, and then whoever collects the point coins and has the most points wins. Boggle, we really wanted to buy Boggle Junior, but I wanted to work with what I had on hand. So I worked with this. When we first started, we would just roll the dice, and whatever words my daughter could come up with, she got. They did not have to be touching like traditional way it's supposed to in Boggle. Then we upgraded to it had to be touching, but she didn't have to use the timer. So that's a great way to use what you have on hand. The last one I have is Miss Bernard is a wild card. This is from the same characters or same people as the My Weird School. And it is a super fun way to practice all of those parts of speech because you're, again, collecting parts of speech to make a sentence, a few more parts of speech because you're getting in your rhyme as well. So this is doing rhyming and parts of speech. And this is the last one I have that would fit inside of a stocking. All right, now for some of the larger games that wouldn't fit inside a stocking. One of the first ones, and I'm not going to open this one because it has so many components, but it's very silly sentences. So you have a dice and a spinner, and you have all of these different cards, and so you're getting practice with verbs and articles and conjunctions, and you're making silly sentences. This is more, I would say, maybe an upgrade from this one, or even from the wacky, corny sentences I showed you that are only having 3 and 4 parts, to this one is having 6 to 7 parts in each sentences. So depending on where your child is, this one would be a little bit older in my opinion, but it's still really fun and it's practice and it's got pictures with the words. So there's a lot of things you could do with this. Sequence letters was one of our favorite when we first started game schooling. What makes it so fun is you have this beautiful board and you draw a card and it has the letter and the color. And so let's say you have P and blue. You have to find a picture that starts with the letter P in this color, and you get to put your little coin on it, and whoever gets a sequence of coins first wins. This was a lot of fun. The cards are pretty, the colors are pretty, the images are very simple but pretty as well. And it was a lot of fun to practice that phonetic, not just, A says ah, but actually being able to say A says ah, and then apple starts with that sound. So it was like a really great transition into that. Another one that I really suggest for somebody who's just learning to read is the Happy Hats, which is basically the Bob Books game. So you have the Bob Books character and you roll and you go around the board and you place your word families on the letters that are already in existence to try to make a word. So like van, tap, if you had at, you could have mat. So you're trying to make words with word family endings and the first sound. So this is another really fun one if you have somebody who's just starting to learn to read. I would say probably my last one for a beginning reader is the What's New. And this is very similar in the machine to like the Zingo machines. So if you can see here, you have the Zingo machine and you have 2 different levels of cards. You have one card that's just missing 1 letter, and then other cards, which is just the other side that's missing 2 letters. And you're just trying to spell those words in different ways. So as you can see here, that could be like cat or fat or pat, depending on what letter you had. So it's a great way to level up 1 letter and then 2 letters. And it's another great way to practice spelling and phonics. The next 2 or 3 are more spelling games. This one has been so much fun, and it is Scrabble Alphabet Soup. you have this cute little pot, and you get these cards that have words on them, and these adorable little ladles, and you scoop in the pot, and you are trying to pick the letters that you need to spell the words on your card. So another really fun, and it's cute. My daughter has taken this and just played in her kitchen with it, and spelled the words just like, you know, because she's a chef, because it's cute, and it's a pot, and it's a ladle. So she loves that. Just as cute is, I'm not even sure what the name of this was anymore. Mice, cheese, rat, cheese, something. I don't have it in the box, but it's these cute little mice with these long tails, and you pull a word, and then you each have mice that you're in charge of. You could even play it as one player, because you could put a word for each different color mice, and you roll the dice, and that color mice gets to use its tail to try to pick up a letter that it needs. Let me see if I can do this left-handed. Probably not. But you get to try to pick up one of the little cheese block letters, and whichever color mice spells their word first, and there's 3-letter words and 4-letter words, wins. And so you can play one player and just see, oh, what color is going to win, or you can have, like, when me and Emily play, we are each 2 colors. So it's like we're playing against each other, but neither of us know which of our mice is going to win. So that's a lot of fun. This Word on the Street Junior is probably one of my favorite games of all time, because it is just so versatile. When we first got it, Emily was not really good with spelling, so playing with the cards that they give you was not an option. So what we did was combine it with our pot for sight words. So we would draw a sight word. So like this would be under. She would say the sight word, she'd keep the sight word, and then she'd pull the letters over that spelled this word. So she was practicing reading her sight word and spelling her sight word. And that's how we played this game for the longest time, until her spelling was strong enough that she could play with the cards that they gave you. Because what it is it's like a game of tug of war. So you have this street, and there's just basically A through Z, and you're trying to pull the letters to spell the words back and forth, and whoever gets enough letters off of the street onto their side first wins. Fun game, excellent game, and like I said, I think this would work with just about anything. We did it with the sight words, but you could easily do it with like a spelling list, like if you're doing the Good and the Beautiful and you have their spelling list, or even if you aren't homeschooling and your kid comes home with a spelling list, you could have them use their spelling words for it. If there's certain things that you wanted them to work on outside of the cards that they give you, which the cards they give you are very generic. They could be played, they could be multiple things. So for instance, this is just another word for big, or a school supply. So it gives you many different things that you could do. There is a timer that comes with it. Again, this is one of the games that as of yet, we don't use the timer. So we are really okay with adjusting things when they need to be adjusted rule-wise. Obviously, I couldn't do this without having the classic Scrabble. If you're not familiar with Scrabble, which I don't know many people who aren't, it is a board where you're going back and forth trying to spell words, putting them on places that gets you the highest point value. Again, we don't play with points just yet. We do play the letter tile point, but like double letter, triple letter, we don't do that with Emily just yet, just because she's 6 and that's way too much math and it makes her head hurt. So we just add up the score on the tiles for the words as of right now. One of my other favorite, actually both of our favorites, go figure, is an EBU game, and it is the Fairy Tale Spinner game. I'm not going to open it because there's a ton of pieces, but you have these, you have these like scene cards, and you spin the spinner and you get to pick a hero or a villain or a magical item or transportation, lose a turn. Once you've collected all of the different pieces and parts of your story, and you put them, not of your story, but of a story, and you put them in the scene, you have to tell a story about everything that you collected. So you would have to say like Little Red Riding Hood went walking to a house and the fox met her and he tried to steal her goat away, and she used something in the magic sack to make him disappear. Whatever. But you have like the parts of a story, and then you have to use them to tell a story. So super fun, and it's fairy tale themed, and we really, really like fairy tales. Another one of our favorites is Apples to Apples Big Picture. When we first got this game, I wasn't sure Emily was going to be able to play it, and it's actually really funny because she can play it. So because it's pictures, you would say, let's say you had the word sticky, and you could put, you know, different things down, like if she thought the lion's tongue was sticky, or if you thought, you know, a spider's web was the stickiest. And then what's even better is because there's a judge, you get to kind of like defend why you thought that card worked best for that adjective. And that's always super fun and funny. And it's really great for vocabulary because she's like trying to explain why she thought that it worked. So it's really great for vocabulary because you're having to define those words. And it's super insightful to your child's mind when they're trying to explain why they thought this thing was stickier than whatever you had. Tall Tales is probably one of Emily's favorite games. And I will show you why. It's because you have these little tiny pieces that come with it. There's 5 different ways to play this game, which is amazing. You have these super thick cardboard environment cards, settings, scenes, and then you have this really luxurious velvet bag full of these little tiny like things. So like that's a little girl, that's a pair of boots, a baseball, and they're tiny, and so you kind of like are blindly picking these little things out of a bag, which she loves. So that is probably her all-time favorite. If she gets a choice, that's what she's picking, and you're using it to tell stories again. The last game I have for you is Giant again, and it is Cooking Up Sentences. It's by Learning Resources. You are basically you get a recipe card, you are spinning a spinner, and you're trying to use all those parts that's in your recipe to make a sentence. So again, parts of speech. If you have some favorites that I didn't feature, I would love for you to tell me what they are in the comment box down below because I'm always looking to add some more games to my game shelves.